Welcome to the NTM Growth Marketing Podcast. And today we have two very special guests, Nate and Jenny, who are actually the two first people that we're interviewing for this show. And this was definitely a dream interview to be able to speak with two individuals who are doing amazing work in the NFL. So Nate and Jenny, welcome to the NTM Growth Marketing Podcast.
Thanks.
What's up, man? Yeah, we started out the old AFC Central rivalry, so let's go. Let's get
it. Houston Oilers, Pittsburgh Steelers matchup today. It's going to be a non-confrontational interview, so really wanting to just shine the light on the two of you and the awesome work that you're doing in pro sports. And to kick it off today, our first question is, what does marketing mean to you?
I think that question probably it has a very generic answer for most people, and then it's different based off of everyone's individual perspectives. But for me, at least, when I think about marketing, I think about it just being about spreading awareness and connecting with people on an individual basis, and finding those common grounds where your brand and your consumer meet, and increasing awareness and connection in that crossroads.
Let's go. Yeah, I have my notes right here. You didn't even cheat off mine. I was gonna say creating community.
Is that why you turned your brightness down so I couldn't cheat off you?
See it. Yeah. Creating community is kind of, for me, as we get into our job titles, some of our answers probably are cliche for what we do. But yeah, for me, to boil it down to a few things, is probably just creating a community around your organization, your product, etc., which feeds off what Jenny said.
Was this always a passion of the two of you? Did you have any of the career thoughts, or is it always like, I'm going to be a marketer and work in pro sports?
Well, I'm 6 months into this role. I've worked in music as a music agent for the past 12 years. But I think the similarities that exist between that role and this, that I would definitely claim as a passion for my career, is the connection with people and creating experiences and representing brands that allow for real authentic connection with people, and that provide something to them that they don't get normally. And I think what's amazing about music and sports, and the through line of that with marketing and live events, is that you're just continuing to create experiences for people and open up opportunities for people within those experiences.
Yeah. No doubt. I'm trying to think, even at a young age, I think I was doing marketing things without knowing I was doing it. My father was an athletic director for 30 years at a very small school. And so a lot of interest he had to generate in the community were things I just thought were like hyping up a game or a student athlete or something of that nature. But they were basically, when you get older and go through school, those are like some of the marketing things you take in courses, or things you see out in the general public. And also I kind of enjoyed getting saturated in Saturday morning cartoons and the Nerf commercials that they would have and all those kind of things. And so I was probably feeding into that. But as I got older, I appreciated that kind of stuff. So even from a young age, I enjoyed getting my hands dirty in that space. And so it's been cool to have an occupation or a job that I can kind of still have excitement in there. Stranger Things 4 is everywhere right now. So hopefully your podcast comes out. I don't know, it's still on Netflix. It'll be relevant.
Do we need to give a spoiler warning?
Yeah, no spoilers.
I binged all weekend with Jordan.
Absolutely, yes. So what I'm seeing, I ordered Domino's last night because they have an awesome commercial out with Dustin, and so whatever. So it was, Steve was in it the last time around. So I like the marketing and how it kind of impacts our daily lives.
And just to quickly add to that, not to speak for you, Nate, but I feel like marketing is an intuitive field. And I think that, if you're generally a person that likes to hype things up and gets really passionate about things and wants to share them with people, and it's just kind of part of your personality, marketing makes a lot of sense for you because it's an easy plug-in.
That's a great point, Jenny, of I've always thought about this myself, of intuition and analytics in marketing. And I'd love to hear from the two of you. And Jenny, feel free to elaborate more on that answer. Is what makes a good marketer then?
Well, I think that you brought up the two best points there, is that, there's the analytical part of it. And then there's the intuitive part of it. And I was just talking to my dad about this yesterday. Actually, we were talking about the automation of our lives and how you incorporate so much technology, and how it definitely increases the information that we have at our fingertips and the reaction time with a lot of things in our lives. But at the end of the day, the beautiful component about being a person is that you have that intuition and you have that gray area to decide things and to go with your gut. And how often when you go with your gut, you're making the right decision. And even if it doesn't pan out the way that you thought it would, you can look at it and go, well, I took this analytical information, I made an educated decision, and I went with my gut based off of that information. And I think when you do that, you can always confidently look back and be proud of the work you did. So for a good marketer, I think you need to be able to ingest information and data and be really strategic about your plans and how you're attacking things. But at the end of the day, to go with your gut on which direction you want to go, because sometimes I think it can be counterintuitive to what the data is saying, but that's, I think, where sometimes you get the best results. And I think all of that under the umbrella of just being, I hate how buzzy this word is, but just being authentic with your audience and make sure you're not putting out something just because you say, oh, well, the data says they'll like this. Like, it still has to be authentic to your brand.
Right. How are you seeing this actually play out in sports? So I'm going to have to give the Steelers reference to Mike Tomlin. I can't see Tomlin ever making a decision in the game based upon a data report he sees, as I view him as such an intuitive, in the moment gut reaction coach. But you are seeing coaches and athletics turn into very analytical of, should I go for 4th and 1? Should I punt? Whatever the situation is. How are you seeing this actually impact the Titans and how analytics are being brought into the organization?
Yeah, no doubt. Along those same lines, I've used it in marketing meetings here quite a bit. But Brandon Staley is the coach at the Chargers right now, with back and forth kind of on data versus gut. And he basically said, like, if it was all up to data, you'd probably pass the ball almost 100% of the time because of just how the rules work and how the game's evolving. But also there's a huge component of the run game that allows you to, like, the linemen to fire off the ball and guys get tired, and, you know, as the game wears on, run game opens up, which then helps the pass game. And so basically you take a mix of the two, kind of what Jenny was saying and you were hinting at, of using a little bit of both. And then in some of those key decision making, lean on the data that maybe before older regimes didn't have the luxury to have. So yeah, I think that's now on the football field becoming more and more true. But also we do it here. We just started up probably right when Jenny started a business intelligence team that we use to essentially maybe reinforce some of the gut decisions that we had in the past, or try to improve some of the thought processes or make things more efficient. But their whole job is to use data and numbers from marketing events to social posts to ticket sales, and try to look at things a little different way, or generate some conversations that have been very helpful for us. And we've only had them for 6 months, and we're already kind of seeing some really positive results.
I'd love to take a little bit of a step back and hear more directly, as we didn't fully introduce your roles at the Titans. Can you share a little bit more about your role and what a day-to-day in marketing of the Titans looks for the two of you?
Yeah, for sure. So my role is director of marketing and fan engagement with the Titans. So that looks like a lot of events outside of traditional football space, and really engaging the fans outside of just the games. That doesn't mean we're not doing things in game day or during season. We're definitely heavily activated there, but making sure that we're kind of hitting all corners of our demographic, and also exploring ways to engage folks who might identify themselves outside of a traditional NFL demo. Lots of events, lots of planning, lots of working with that BI team, and just kind of identifying trends, seeing where our current fans are existing, seeing where our target new demographics are existing and what their patterns are, and where we can find those, like I said earlier, that I feel like I'm going to say this 100 times, the natural crossroads of where our brand intersects with that. So a lot of research, a lot of planning, and then a lot of execution.
Yeah, exactly. So, and my gig is, we do questions at the end. Director of social media and influencer marketing. That last part's a little bit buzzier and, I don't know, relevant right now, I suppose, but handle and manage all of our social media efforts. So all the content that comes out across most of our channels, and we work with a lot of different teams we have here for paid advertising, for just organic posts. And then also I've taken on a new role to basically work with this influencer celebrity program, whether it be just a liaison. If Jenny has people from her music life that want to come to a game, we take care of them, make sure they're fitted in gear, posting, etc. And then how to integrate those into our marketing and sponsorship plan. And then, yeah, most of the other stuff is just strategizing, planning, and executing a number of different objectives that we have. Like right now, I'm about to go to our locker room after this and get a player to read a prompt for our new kids club that Jenny is launching. So how those, like that kind of the influencer in itself and how those worlds are colliding and working together.
My sister is always sending me photos of Seamus and Drew McIntyre. Is it Seamus who's a huge Titans fan, and maybe Drew's just in the area, or is he a big Titans fan too? Is that the situation?
Yeah, a little bit of both. They're two awesome guys. So if you have wrestler fans on the pod, that'll be fun. But both Seamus and Drew McIntyre live in Nashville, and they're just big sport fans in general. But now that they've kind of put roots down here in the city, they wanted to get involved, and so that was perfect for what we were doing. So yeah, we had them out for our playoff game. SummerSlam's going to be here in July, and so
that was going to be my question. Of it sounds like SummerSlam might be a merger of both of your worlds of outside entertainment, community, and there's, I'm sure, a similar audience as someone who likes WWE probably is a football fan too. What's that looking like for the two of you of kind of co-promoting SummerSlam and integrating the Nashville community?
Yeah, well, for us, we want to have our stadium full, and so our big push, and this, as the WWE's is to fill the stadium with people, and so we're doing everything from standard ticket push and paid advertising, and whether it's billboards or social media, but also we're working on some content ideas. We'll get some of their superstars in our world and vice versa, and then on day of event, we'll have our players and staff in and around in the mix doing some stuff, but everything right now is leading up selling tickets. It's pretty much our only objective. But yeah, for us, it's huge because the WWE audience is massive. And so, yeah, we have a lot of crossover between Southern fans in general of sport and wrestling, but also Titan fans and WWE. And again, it helps. We already kind of planted some of those seeds with Sheamus doing things last year with us. So it's not unfamiliar to see WWE superstars in our content. And I think we even have, Bianca, the women's world champion, was a track star in Knoxville at University of Tennessee. So there's a lot of,
very cool.
Yeah. And real quickly, to just props to Nate for this department that he's building out on the influencer front. Any people businesses based on relationships, but Nashville specifically is really cultivated by long-term relationships and really nurturing those when you don't need something. And it's very much an all ships rise with the tide type community, but Nate's done a really good job of kind of fielding those relationships. And to his point, like, he's been doing stuff with the WWE folks for so long, for us to now have SummerSlam and to be able to kind of cross promote our different objectives and really collaborate on that, I think is in large part due to the relationships that there's been that kind of foundational growth there. So it's that part I think is really cool. And I think that specific example shows a lot of the benefits of that endeavor.
So I'm going to put you both on the spot. Depending on how big of a WWE fans you are we going to see Rock versus Roman Reigns at next year's WrestleMania?
You got this one.
Yeah, I'm going to answer that by saying I don't know anything about wrestling whatsoever. So I don't know who's to say.
Yeah, I think it has to be. And plus, what's the big news right now is his daughter's.
Oh yeah, what's her name? Because she just released it.
Yeah, it is. And
I'd never looked at the article, but I saw the Twitter headlines from the weekend. I didn't click it though.
Maybe Ava or something, but yeah. But I think that's not a bad angle. I like the WCW. So anytime we can get mixed in Kevin Nash and some of those guys, but I think they're probably past that point. But speaking of which, let's not get too far off topic, but Ric Flair's last match is going to be in our fairgrounds in late July. So
that's
again,
true.
We're kind of a hub for, even though we kind of were joking, but we're a hub for wrestling and such a big deal that it kind of makes sense from a marketing standpoint to integrate our brand as tastefully as we can into their product.
Okay, so her name is Ava Rain, and I'm really enjoying people are really upset that she's not going to go by the Pebble.
Yes.
That would have been funny.
So anyway, sorry to get off track, but yes, good stuff.
Tell us a little bit about some marketing challenges and opportunities that you're facing right now at the Titans. We'd love to go a little bit deeper, kind of the nitty gritty of marketing of what's going on in your world.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, I think the correct answer is that all challenges are opportunities. And I think that the largest one in my mind is just the changing landscape of Nashville. The boom that we're experiencing here is not something that I think will slow down anytime soon. And there's so many changing components of that. And I think it's about just figuring out the changes that are happening on our side and how those align with the changes of this city, and just continuing to stay true to ourselves and find those different opportunities within the Nashville demographic and, the state too. And I think that's another opportunity that we have is, there's so much attention demanded by Nashville because of the boom here. But then we have a very extensive market beyond that throughout the rest of the state and other areas in the South. And so I think that there's just a lot of opportunity for us there to kind of continue honing in on our fan base in those areas and find out, where we're changing as an organization and find out how new ways that to identify with our fans within that too. So it's just, I think staying on top of that and not becoming complacent and leaning on our, our traditional fan base or our traditional ticket buyers and saying we're good. And just kind of staying on the forefront of that.
Nate, before you give your answer, I have a question on that, Jenny. As I was reflecting on this this past weekend, as I went to the Pirates Padres game. So for me, there's no chance I would ever wear a Chargers jersey, support them in a million worlds. But I was actually at that game and thinking it would actually be fun to support an MLB team that actually invested and cared about its franchise versus what the Pirates are up to. So in thinking kind of business terms, with such a boom going on in Nashville, how are you considering, all these millennials or Gen Zs that are moving into the city and making the Titans just a welcoming team to maybe get on board with as you're in a new city and, that's a ton of new fans that you could be connecting with?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. And I think part of that is accepting in some scenarios that will be some people's second favorite team. A lot of people have ties to their teams because of, familial foundations. And I think what we're really trying to create here is generational fandom. So targeting those Gen Z kids and the millennials that are, starting to have their own families and grow in that sense is really creating environments and events and opportunities for them to feel a connection with us where they feel that it's something that they want to invest in long term. And I think that's different with every demographic. Like with Gen Z, for example, I think that we're all, super aware that they're the most, what is the right way to put this? They're just very community oriented and they really want to know the cause and the why behind things. And I think that they see through the BS pretty quickly. And so I think that, connecting with them is really finding that core that resonates with us and with them and sharing that with them. And so, we've got an incredible community department here that really reinvest into Nashville and the surrounding areas. And when there's disasters, they're some of the first ones there. And like with the millennials, like I said earlier, really kind of like the kids club stuff is really focused on them and their younger kids and allowing these parents opportunities to have experiences with their kids and having it all under the Titans umbrella. So I don't think that there's one clean answer for that. I think that it's kind of a morphing answer because it's such a large opportunity to attack with that group there and really kind of bringing new people into the fold.
They would say, you stole my thunder, man. It was all gonna be about getting younger.
I'm not looking at your notes, I promise. I can't do it.
You stole thunder. No. That's exactly right. Long story short is I feel like, so I was in Los Angeles before I was here. Jenny's been there many times. I felt like we're kind of a weird mini LA in some regards. A lot of people moving here. Everyone already had, like, if you moved to Nashville with your business, you're already a Steeler fan before. How can we make you interested in our product? But also you
can't for me, I'm not for sale, but for other people, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. You're a perfect example. A ton of people are doing that and they're like, I grew up a Giants fan. I'm not going to switch.
Right.
Maybe we can come to a game or something or semi be invested. Probably going after your kids though.
Right.
But also with us, we moved here from Houston in 99. So 20 years ish. So it hasn't really been people that still bought our first season tickets are still alive, but they're really, really old. And then we went through a really bad lull of football where we weren't good and weren't doing a lot in the community. And so fandom kind of tanked. The people that still have season tickets are the ones from 99. And so as they fall off and their kids grew up and whatever other reasons, we got to replenish that funnel, I guess, if you will. And so we have to slowly get younger. And some of that's with social, some of that's with kids club and getting out in the community and hitting all the different demographics. But we're not alone in that. A ton of NFL teams are having these same conversations, but ours is definitely, we don't have the talent pool, I guess, of just generational fan bases to pull from that others do.
That's really interesting. I'd say my biggest fear in life is that my future kid is not a Steelers fan and he or she's on the playground one day and like all their friends are supporting whatever team and they just want to be a part of the pack or like they're at a community event and then like I turn around in a second, they're in whatever jersey. So totally hear you of it's also just a very like non-salesy way to genuinely, and to bring up your term, Jenny, authentically bring kids and families into that experience. I want to hear from the two of you if there's a marketing fail that you've experienced yourself, you've seen maybe, and tell us a little bit more on why it happened.
I had like some more generic stuff I was thinking of, just like I could probably give it a couple times. Some of it, what did I say here? Some of it's definitely when our team is not, a team being all the different departments we referenced before aren't communicating together. And things fall off, which that can be relevant in anybody's job. So that constant communication is definitely needed and cause some failures. But some of ours has been, we just talked about 20 years of fandom. We moved here from Houston. We didn't have a lot of traditions and things like, oh, you know, this is a good question. Like, how long is, well, I'll get to that point, but starting and trying to implement new traditions, they have to start somewhere, but certainly we have some things that our fans like, that's corny, or why would you do that? Or you definitely get some resistance, especially with social media. You hear that immediate feedback. But I guess at some point, like Renegade had to be played at a Steeler game for the first time, and now it's completely ingrained in
there's a video on it. Mike Morchinski, I think his name is. There's a video showing the background of why it happened. It's pretty cool.
So like some of that'd be, I need to watch that because that'd be fun and probably relevant and helpful for us. But some of those fails, at least in the moment, we've gone through some of that recently with a lot of new leadership change. They want to install and instill some new traditions, and they have been a little rocky to try to get them going. So there's a good and bad of both of that. But again, trying to figure out that sweet spot to get these new fans to get excited about X. What is X? How we come up with it? And some of that goes back to listening to your fans, using a little bit of qualitative and quantitative data. So it all mixes together. But when it does stick, like a Renegade example, it's pretty awesome.
So you're trying to find that groove right now. Like for instance, with the Steelers, whenever they want to, you know, say they want to set the tone of like intensity, they just show James Harrison.
Correct.
They know that resonates. So you're trying to find that groove right now with the fan base, as there's not this like 80-year history of data to look into.
Yeah, and some of it's we want to get younger. So do we go back on like, if we show Eddie George, our fans get fired up regardless of the situation.
Right.
And trying to figure out that balance. But yes, exactly. It's kind of the thing we're trying to look for in all aspects of game day experience or whatever kind of reaction we're trying to get out of fans. Yeah.
And to that too, our leadership here like references our organization as a 60-year startup. So, because there are, you know, there is some history, you know, with being in Houston, being in Memphis, coming here. So there is some establishment in terms of brand recognition there, but they're also, because we're in this boom, they've really kind of given us this license to create new experiences and new traditions and all of that. And like every tradition is new at some point, but to become a tradition, you need to have time to build that. So I think that, you know, a lot to what Nate is saying is it's a little bit of a challenge in terms of that we have this huge blank slate of opportunity to really be flexible and innovative and creative with how we're approaching things here. And I think that just, you know, making sure that we're not biting off more than we can chew and not spreading ourselves too thin and being very intentional about what we're executing is something that we kind of continually keep in mind to make sure that we're not having, you know, a lot of fails here and there. And then when we do, using it as a learning experience and not, you know, getting down on it, but just being like, okay, cool, we tested this out. Now we're going to pivot and learn from that and move forward.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit of a marketing campaign that you've launched that you're really proud of. I know, Jenny, you're only 6 months in at the Titans, so even if it was prior in your music career, would love to hear about that marketing campaign, the success, and dive a little bit deeper into why do you think it did resonate with your audience?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to kind of bring a lot of what my previous experience was into here, and a lot of the marketing that I've done previously has been very grassroots based. And when you're working with artists, you have this very heavy mandate of making sure everything is very consistent and very representative of their brand, because if you don't, they'll call you at 2 a.m. and let you know that this is not representative of my brand. So I think that what I love putting out like really grassroots marketing things and working together as departments, because I think that that's when you know things are the most successful, and when you test out new innovations and strategies. And I love Easter egg type things. I love scattering things throughout the community and really kind of creating this fan base where you kind of have to be a little bit rabid to to engage with it and kind of fostering that. So in the early stages for sure of implementing that here, and still just trying to learn the ropes before I come in and say, all right, here's this, and this is why we're doing it. But I think that, previously with music, you're inundated so much with so many options constantly. And because of streaming, you can switch it at any point in time. There doesn't really require much commitment, which is why, working in the live space is so difficult. And I think similar to here, because you're asking people to convert their fandom into purchases, whether that's for merchandise or ticket sales. And so I think creating really unique experiences for people through grassroots efforts and making it not feel like a cookie cutter or contrived effort is really, really important, because people get that left and right all the time. So it's about finding those very, very genuine ways of connecting with people. And I really love the kind of slow burn leaked, and Nate and I've talked a lot about this. I love the idea of doing campaigns where it's not public. It feels like, well, why don't I know about this? And it's very intentional leak or I don't know, previously I've done things where I've put out information that I knew would really upset fans, so that then my artist could come and be the savior of the situation. And it feels very authentic to the fan, but it's all about moving those pieces across the chessboard.
Yeah, man. I think of what got a couple that we've done here. One that's probably not relevant for your audience, but I'll tell it anyway. But more, I guess, on a qualitative measure. But basically, my boss gave me or us as a whole before Jenny started, task to go out. When we first came to Nashville, everyone was excited for NFL football across the state. Our state's pretty long, from Memphis to Knoxville.
Right.
And wanted to get back into some of these rural communities. And so, long story short, if your listeners look up Rock City in Chattanooga, it's basically this old roadside attraction. But before billboards existed, they used to paint barns. So throughout the Southeast, you had up 400, 450 barns that all were painted, go see Rock City. And I think they converted some of those into birdhouses and sold them internationally. So you may see these randomly. But I ended up going to them, and we worked together on a partnership, and we painted 3 different barns throughout the East Tennessee region, somewhere in the hills and the mountains, and somewhere closer to the interstate. And they basically did a campaign rollout where we combined this old Rock City that's really rooted in a lot of East Tennessee, history, and co-branded some barns with them as a kickoff to our season. And that was kind of in a time during COVID where people were slowly starting to get out of it and starting to drive out a little bit more. So it helped that company generate a little bit more interest in their a little bit older brand. And it gave us a physical presence in a couple of rural areas that we were slowly starting to lose fans in. Thought that was kind of a fun one to do. And we did a couple other integrations where we mentioned it in game and posted about it on social and did a documentary of it on social media. But that was probably a fun marketing campaign that I thought had some, I don't know if we didn't really measure much about it. We didn't gain ticket sales from it, but it was a nice feel good moment for those people out in a different area that they always don't come to the city of Nashville to see the Titans brand in.
Tell me a little bit more of what those internal dialogues were like, Nate, as this is an offline marketing strategy with the world just being so heavy on digital, especially during social. What convinced you that you should do a little bit of offline, almost like mural work?
Yeah, actually, a muralist did the stuff. Yeah, maybe it was to zig when other people were zagging, to do something a little different. And also just had an idea of thought. I think we kind of nostalgic in a certain kind of way, and hit on that. And plus, it was also just a good. We talk. Our group really wants to. Group being our whole organization wants to get further ingrained in the community, and this community staple was having a little bit of trouble, and so it was a way to kind of give some awareness back to this group who had been around for 70 plus years, 50 to 70 years. And so I think some of it was that, and try something different. We have a great organization here that's okay with taking some risks. And again, so some of the goals that they mentioned, plus a unique idea, they were okay to green light it. And then I guess I mentioned that there was a local muralist who had done some awesome work in some of the more, parts of the community don't get a lot of attention, at least in the city. And so we were able to highlight him and his artwork and give some funds for him to do some other projects, which we now are continuing to do into this year and this season. So it probably is a little bit of all of the above.
So if I were to magically write you a check and it was all of last year's marketing budget, where would the two of you want to deploy this capital in your marketing efforts?
Let me go. You
Yeah.
go. I'm already fired up, dude. This is but I felt like maybe going like, I'm gonna make a stereotypical assumption, but most younger people like to spend money on experiences, and I don't know, more so than goods, not always, but I like what, again, tying in the Stranger Thing element. They did like a worldwide launch, obviously a massively popular brand right now, but I would love, and let's ignore NFL rules for a minute, but would love to like hit like our top 5 locations and do like this big kickoff experiential thing. They did something at the Empire State Building where they had some 3D elements that popped onto the side of the on the side of the Empire State Building in New York that everybody gather around. I think there's still some experiential things inside the building that you can go do right now.
Or Stranger Things.
Yes, correct. For Stranger Things, yes. And I think they threw to like Spain and United Kingdom, and then maybe they did Mexico. So they went all over the world and launched it at the same time, when I guess it probably went live on Netflix. But I think that'd be cool to do something centered in Nashville, but we have a huge Houston population of fans, Mexico City, a couple, if we're going to play in London, and go do this experiential movement thing that, I don't know, we even messed around with some. I went to, was it a Van Gogh like immersive?
Oh, yeah, they've had those all across the states.
All across the thing, right? Like, so like this thing where you go and experience the Titans in a certain way. I think it'd be cool to just blow a huge sum of money on this one big thing, and hopefully that would stick with the people that went there, and they'd remember that one moment, as opposed to, I don't know, it's probably, again, not as impactful in the community, but maybe it would stick with some people a lot longer than a bunch of the smaller things would.
So that would be really. I'll add in, Jenny, before you go, I'll just add in that could be really cool with almost a AR VR type experience. If you were living out the history of the Titans and their move to Nashville, you're there in the Super Bowl. That'd be really cool for the fans.
It'd be a fun way to get younger people to come to this pop-up event, but also you can maybe learn about the history, and we could hopefully hook you into the team a little bit more. Then it'd probably be a little harder to do on a normal Sunday.
Well, my answer is very complimentary to yours. I love immersive experiences where you just come in and you're like, this entire experience from start to finish is completely, I'm in a different place. I completely get the brand. I felt really cool and exclusive being there. Like, I think about like the Spotify Harry's House thing they did for his launch, where it was, the people that were there it was everyone you'd expect to be there, but it was also, the biggest fans of the fans. He was there, and it was just an experience that those fans will never forget for the rest of their lives. And if you weren't there, you wish you were there. But I think I love the idea of being able to kind of fully cultivate an environment that from top to bottom feels so perfectly representative of the brand. And I think that perfectly goes into what Nate's saying, and kind of just continuing to create experiences where people go, well, I had to be there. Like, why wasn't I there? How do I get there? How do I participate in this? And the people that are there leave that feeling so special and seen, and really walking away feeling like they had a unique, once in a lifetime experience. But beyond that too, I think that something in just the short time that I've been here that I've been really impressed with is the involvement that we do have in the community. And I think that, there's very substantial resources and efforts poured into that. But I think that continuing to kind of build out that in a supportive way, and continuing to immerse that in all the different efforts that our department does is something that, you could never go wrong with a big check towards.
It sounds like I'm sure this is more of an NFL rule. Whenever NFTs get more incorporated into teams, that's going to be a big thing then for the exclusivity for your fans.
Yeah, so we've messed around a little bit. Again, the league's, full disclosure, a little bit restrictive in some of that stuff. They want to test things out before we go live with it, just because the brand's so strong, the Shield is. But yes, I think the first iteration was teams had the ability to maybe create some custom artwork. And so everything is now, the ticket to go to a football game is all digital, which makes it great for a lot of different reasons. But a lot of our fans, and probably fans across the country, like that physical ticket that they could keep as a souvenir. And so to hopefully offset that a little bit is we're slowly integrating some NFTs as basically a digital ticket that you have, and you get this cool NFT to go with it. But yeah, I could see with the NBA Top Shop and a couple other places are doing a lot more highlight driven things and great artwork. You both will probably see some of that slide into, I think NFL has working with Dapper Labs.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think you'll start seeing more and more of that slide in, but the first iteration will probably be some type of I don't know, trade-off for the tickets that they lost when everything went digital.
Right. So my last question today is whether personally or professionally, what is the best purchase you made under $100 in the last 6 months and why?
Mine's personal, but it's professional if you think that it benefits my personal mindset and that's my professional mindset, and it's under $10. The ice roller off Amazon is just a delightful experience from start to finish. It is so wonderful. It's literally like this just plastic roller that you put in your freezer, and it's like this plastic, it's, I don't know what the material is exactly, there is the rolling portion, but there's some kind of liquid in there that freezes, and you just roll it on your face in the morning. You get a headache and you roll it across your eyes, and it is a spectacular experience. It's less than $10 on Amazon. I will order one for both of you right now. It's incredible. Highly recommend.
I like it. You might just semi-stump me with this one. That's a good question. I've done usually. Besides like getting moving a little bit, and I don't know, under $100. Some of these streaming services are awesome. Again, like that's what I did with
That's
my
a fair answer. Stranger Things. That was
I wanted to keep the theme alive, but like she and I share a lot of a love for whether it's different TV shows and movies. I don't know, a lot of that stuff for me and social media is relevant because I can pull from some of those, but inspiration for art that we do on our graphics and video, or also sometimes it's quite literally like, how can we integrate our brand into Stranger Things that's very popular right now or whatever, or it's just good conversation to some camaraderie in the office when Severance is on and we all are freaking out over that show. So yeah, invest in one of your streaming services, I suppose, or just go to the movies, it's always fun too. But yeah, I think some of that's relevant for me and fun. But I don't know. I'll DM you back with a better one when I think of it. I need something like physical.
Oh, I don't think so. Think about you get the streaming service and the ice roller. Like,
there we go.
What a perfect scenario.
And that was only $20.
Yeah. I know that we're really harping on
left.
Stranger Things, but I just do want to plug the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. If you watch the first episode and you're not super into it, it's worth pushing through to the second episode.
I binged so hard last weekend between that and Stranger Things and Better Call Saul. It was the perfect weekend of binging on everything.
Oh my God. Do you listen to, well, I don't know if I won't talk about another podcast on this, but I'm a recent podcast convert, mostly because I love television. And like Nate said, like big movie TV people over here. And I love listening to podcasts about movies and TV because it's like, just feels like you're talking to folks. And there's one about Better Call Saul that.
What's your $100 answer? Do you have one? I need to know, like, what's the right answer for this?
Well, there is no right answer. I would say the best purchase. I'm gonna give a book. It's called Ready Player One. I believe that's what it's called. And so it's Zuckerberg says it was the influence for the metaverse. So it's set like 40 years out into the future. And it's this story of this kid who is like hooked up and addicted to the metaverse and in his virtual reality world. And this big quest he's going on because they hid like $100 billion in a random corner of the metaverse that he's trying to explore. And so it's a really interesting story of what our world is probably going to be moving into. There's a really sad scene where he has a virtual crush on this girl and then she turns him down. It was really sad. And
I think it's a Spielberg movie too, didn't he?
It came out a few years ago. Yeah, I'm only 100 or so pages into it, so sorry for anyone listening who I'm giving a spoiler to, but we'll see if they become love interests by the end, and hopefully she's actually like the 19-year-old woman she's portraying and she's not like this 70-year-old man who lives in her parents' basement, which is like a joke between the two of them of like, how do I know we're both not just like 70-year-old fat guys living in our mom's basement acting like we're teenagers? So
I agree, man. No, it's good. There's a lot of good books out there. McConaughey's book's awesome.
That was a great one as well.
David Rule's new book's awesome. So I'm a big, I like the biographies and autobiographies.
You guys like TV? On the TV note, highly recommend Seinfeldia. It's written by a TV historian. If nobody knew that was a job, because I didn't know it was a job, but apparently it is. And she wrote this book about Seinfeld that's 10 on 10.
Love it. Well, Jenny and Nate, that is the end of our interview today. And I want to thank both of you for coming on and having awesome answers to these questions. And thank you both so much for taking time out of your day to speak with me.
It was so good to meet you. Any friend and family of Jordan's is an immediate win in our book. And we've heard a lot of great things about you. So thanks for having us on.
Yeah, hopefully we contribute something positive other than random pop culture